Oh, this is going through the degree, or are you like sculptural kind of artist, or are you doing other things?
I started out in functional wear, teapot, beautiful cookware. That was probably the more facade. I hadn't dug deep.
How do I call myself an artist?
I mean, you cry. Probably a lot of the strong correlations of just 2 generations ago, 3 generations coming out, fresh out of slavery, yes. Yep. What those fears had upon my life.
I love some of the stuff you said through this interview where it's just do without restraint, just do. Because you never know what impact what you do is going to have on anyone.
You can't just say, well, I'm just going to do only one thing, or yes, you can say that, but just be ready to live with your decision and ask yourself that from not a place of scarcity and fear.
Family, I'm so excited for this new interview, this new time with a perfectly creative artist, Ida Tyus, that I have been spending some time courting, trying to get to this interview.
Thank you.
One more unfiltered and inspired moment, an awesome hour that we're going to spend just exploring a new artist, new techniques, new ways of doing things, and new way of creating, and new ways of inspiring the world. So welcome. Let's have a good time. Ida, welcome.
Hi, how are you? Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for the invitation.
Absolutely. It's been a minute.
I tend to be extremely trying to get things out of the bag and into life, and so that takes a lot of time, and it does. So I'm glad we were able to circle back and go back and forth, but finally narrow down this time. And it's spring break for me because I'm MFA at Cal State San Bernardino.
Oh, you're an MFA.
I'm MFA.
Okay.
Cal State San Bernardino.
So I like also, that's one of the things I like to do, is to show people who artists are, right?
Yes.
Because we have one image about what an artist is, and this is really a show about real life.
Yeah,
what are people
real
doing?
life. What are we doing?
So would you want to explain just a little bit MFA for people who don't understand what that is?
Yeah, the Masters of Fine Arts is just the pivotal degree, the final degree for the arts. It's kind of like in the realm of PhD, EDD, EDS. Well, EDS is a little bit under EDD, but for the arts, it's MFA.
Okay,
So you don't have a PhD in studio ceramics. You have a MFA.
Studio
yeah,
ceramics.
so it's the terminal degree.
Learn something new today.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So it's an exciting program. A lot of work, a lot of individuality you need to really possess. You have to prepare yourself for research.
Okay.
You have to look at the present climate you're living in, all that kind of stuff, as you're building in the MFA. It's an exciting process, but it is also one that forces you to narrow a lot of views. You can't be as playful as you want to be. You have to grind down on a concept, and you can still be playful, but eventually you got to grind down and thesis work done.
And it pushes you to dig deep into yourself and to what you really mean by your art.
You have to.
Yeah.
I mean, you cry.
You cry.
Oh my gosh! When for this body of work, it was kindred spirit and common spirit, and other works that I've worked on have been just like the beginning of it's wild, the beginning of me unfolding how I felt about segregation, how I felt about the Middle Passage, what I felt about being in this United States.
Your ancestral history.
The entire ancestral part of it.
All right, so let's talk about that. Did you always do this, or this is something that came with the going through the degree, or are you like an entirely sculptural kind of artist, or are you doing other things?
I started out in functional wear, which is like bowls, cups, teapots, beautiful cookware,
Okay. We'll see some of those
Those
images.
are I love that work, but that was a part of me that was probably the more facade as an artist.
You hadn't dug deep.
I hadn't dug deep, yeah. Okay. And the sculpture is where you're seeing who I am.
How did you pivot? Like, when did that moment come? Because a lot of people who are watching this show are wondering, how do I call myself an artist? How do I get to that? Because a lot of them do a lot of beautiful things, but then they're like, I'm not really an artist. I'm kind of, and I'm like, no. If you create,
I think
so
everybody's an artist.
when did you switch and you were like, this is my soul now. This is my history. This is the stuff that I actually want to talk about.
I don't think I really switched. I
Okay.
think I kind of really unfolded to what I am today and still growing, still humbled by everything, humbled by the kiln.
Okay. Yep.
I mean, it'll blow pieces in a minute, you know, if you're not careful.
That you spent hours making.
That you put a lot of work in, you know, drying time. There's a lot of things that humble you to how a growth process happens. But for me, it's just really, you know, what statement I really want to make at this point in time in my life.
So it's worth the struggle.
Oh my gosh, it just came with it. You know, the struggle.
Okay.
It's not like it's worth the struggle because I've had some easy times too. So it's kind of like the arches are reminiscent of your pathway, you know, and everyone's different. Like you say, well, what should I do at this point in my art career? You know, how do I know I'm an artist? How do I know? You know, and it's just like, keep doing until you know.
Ooh, can we just keep that one? Okay, I like that. Keep doing until you know.
Yeah, keep
There's
doing until you know.
a tremendous amount of doubt in the art, in the life of being an artist about, am I doing the right thing? What should I explore? Am I consistent? Because sometimes you think about galleries and they're like, you gotta have a body of work, and other. I've spoken to so many people who are like, nah, just do. So, say that again.
Well,
Keep going,
and just let the work, you know, do itself, show its worth.
itself to you.
And it doesn't have worth is not about like what society puts value on. It's your communication of what came on the inside through your years or through your experiences, and they manifest. They're here. I made them in 3D. They were given to me, and boom, here it is. So you release it at that point. If it resonates with you, you consume it.
But then it's
If
because
it
you
doesn't,
keep doing though.
you keep doing.
That's the keep doing that's gonna bring in
Keep doing
that
yeah.
thing.
Then you'll know that
say.
you'll look up and say, I'm an artist. Well, you've always been one.
Yes, thank you. I agree. I'm glad you said
You know,
that.
you just had to do the self acceptance.
Accepting yourself.
Accepting yourself. It's the bottom line of it all, huh?
So tell me, in accepting yourself, obviously you came up with these sculptures that are just not like nothing I have seen before. And there's another thing about these sculptures that my experience has been, oh, interesting, you know, just interesting stuff. Until recently, when we started talking and you pointed my eyes to some of the characters that were at the bottom, and then the whole thing revealed itself, where I was like, oh, that's what she means. So I think I really enjoy Ida's art because you see one thing, and then as you walk around, you start seeing other things. So like the story kind of reveals its stuff to you.
Yes.
And then if you talk to her, you get so much more as well. So talk to me about how you came about doing these, you know, bridges and these passages and these sculptures.
Well, I can take you back to Australia. I'm an Australian trained artist at the intermediate level. And Canada, Whitby, the area of Whitby, Ontario was my first encounter, but where I really began to go from learning to work with clay to really producing work that made a statement at the very beginning was in Australia. And so I looked at a lot of Aborigine art and Aboriginal art, and they tell a lot of deep passage stories, ancestral stories through their creations. And then William Ricketts, which is the guy that lived in the Dandenongs up in it's northern part, I think it's the northern part, I could be wrong, of Australia, but very beautiful terrain, and he did Aboriginal work because he lived amongst them, and had their permission to express their culture and him in it because he was part of it. We can't deduce that he wasn't a part of it. He lived there. He was part of the culture. And so his work is very iconic to what I appreciated. I visited his grounds. But getting back to the design of my work, I think it's now become not so much I look at Ricketts' work or I look at Aboriginal work, but I look at my experience in those spaces where I picked up the information and what it did for me as a person, and then it just naturally manifests in the work. For example, the lines that move around, and I think of these more as gathering places, you know, like movement and then gathering places. You know, where might you find water? Where might you find safety? Where might you find spiritual spots that we ancestrally utilized? You know, so for the Aboriginal, that's what that was. But for us, we have that same connection in our lives. You know, we have places where we worship, we have places where we gather, we have places where we fellowship, we have places where we relax and recenter. And so, and community, yes. So that's a part of it. And so the creation, like the crown, the crown piece here, they come in different sizes. It's like our queen and kingship.
Yes.
You know, we wear crowns at all times, you know, and our paths build our crowns. You know, you say, why do our matriarchs and patriarchs, you know, have so much wisdom and information, hopefully, if they've been good governorship over their lives, and you see big crowns, and sometimes you see small ones.
Small ones. And you do have different sizes, and but so there's common elements where you always correct me, right? If you always have a couple of characters, one or two characters.
No. Sometimes they're just completely just sculptural, no character at all.
Okay.
Like one piece called the Underground Railroad. It was a piece that sits and then you just see tracks.
You just see tracks.
That's it. It's just
those little dots and stuff. Are they tracks representing or paths or people?
Track representing. It could be for you. You know, everyone will approach art differently.
Yes.
But from my narrative, they're kind of we have these micro paths that we have in our lives that are day to day, and they make up our journey. Yes, I like that word. Thank you. That's the word, journey. And in that we're still governed by the laws of the ground and the sea, and it is what it is. And we carry the ancestral lineage that will forever be with everyone, whether they recognize it or not. You know, I'm still carrying probably a lot of the strong correlations of just 2 generations ago. You know, 3 generations coming fresh out of slavery. Yes. Yep. You know, and what those fears had upon my life, what those situations that different people went through imposed on my life. Yeah. And so we have to gather all that and become who we are.
Become who we are.
We have to.
I have recently explored some records with my father.
Nice.
And we found 4 slaves freed. So it was the record of them being freed.
Wow.
Yes. And
that's
so
powerful.
we try to track. We try to track what plantation they were coming from, and we learned a lot about this. Where we learned that I'm from Martinique, by the way. For those of you who don't know,
I love Martinique,
Caribbean island, French island.
It's my favorite vacation spot.
Is that?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
I love this.
Oh, I love Martinique.
Right. So we found those records and we try to find the plantation, but we learned that the records were systematically destroyed, so we couldn't track who had us and then what boat came from where. So there's a gap there where we can't figure out the before these 4 slaves, because we don't know what plantations they were on and what boat they came in. But that was super emotional with Daddy, for sure.
Definitely.
And then it just had us really think about this lineage and what we're bringing in. And I was just thinking now, okay, I have this blood, I have these four, slaves in me, and where are they coming from? What's coming from that? How do I
Yes.
express that story? And so when you say becoming who we are, the interesting question for artists that are always evolving, because it's not because I'm doing a certain piece of art right now that I'm going to do the same thing in 20 years.
Yes.
How is this whole story going to translate over time? Should I say things about it or should I not? All of these questions. It can be lonely in our heads as artists to try to really understand what to do with ourselves and how to become who we are, like what our DNA is.
Yes.
How do we become that?
Yes.
And so that was powerful. That was powerful.
Yeah.
So I resonate with trying to represent and live and express what's in you. And it,
That's true.
doesn't have to be deep. It just have to be you.
It has to be
It just
you.
has to be what it is.
It's funny because we can transpose the situations of life onto ourselves in ways like, oh, I have to go do this degree or that degree because family thinks I should be a doctor or a lawyer, or I should be this or the other. And really honing in on the true person will help to close and utilize, I want to say close and utilize, the ancestral lineage that's coming through a bloodline. Because if you're pushed to the arts and you don't do it, you might do some other things, but you'll have a yearning. Because you've got to spill out forgive the lack of words, but the guts of what's given to you to spew upon the earth. And I say spew, it sounds horrible, but it's not in a negative way, because just as we give birth, we push out, the church often calls, I'm delivering a baby, meaning a book or, whatever it may be, but it's like pushing out a word of God, or pushing out, something that might be deep down inside of you that needs to come through. Healing is in there. It doesn't stop at just what's religious or Christianity, but it can move into the spiritual realm, and knowing just fully that what you have to release out needs to manifest itself.
Do you pray before
and
you
heal?
Sculpt?
No, I pray at all times.
You pray at all times?
Yeah.
That's a big part of your being.
Yeah, it's not like you say, well, how can you pray at all times? Well, my mind is always centered on what do you want from me, God, So like there's scripture pottery that's in me to come out one day, and that has to unfold.
She said scripture pottery, like that's a new term. Come on, let's explore that for a minute.
I'm exploring from the standpoint of when you have, I personally follow scripture in my life, and so, but I don't impose scripture on anyone else. I don't really have a care because it's just my belief, right? So, Leah, I live my process, and so my experiences give me that there's a God. I'm not, I don't follow the Anglo-Saxon Christianity model. I follow the Holy Scriptures. So the Apocrypha's in there. It's not just the regular Bible. Yeah.
You're an explorer of the sacred
And then
texts.
interpretation, the interpretation of Scripture for me is very, I don't look at it only, and I need to read more, that's really the truth, but I don't pull Scripture from a perspective of Christianity. I'm trying to look at what God is saying to me.
A couple of things that came to mind, because I don't know if y'all know that, but my dad was a pastor, so I grew up in a Christian household. Hey, Dad. God is called a potter, right? In some of these texts.
And we're the clay.
We're the clay. So all these terms are there. And so I think that's interesting for an artist to think about what God did and how He did it and why, and get that come out.
Yeah, yeah, and it's that revelation of seeing the connection. Like a lot of times I'll work and I'm thinking, God, there's more you have for me to do in life.
Yeah.
And I need energy, I need strength, and then when I'm working on the clay, I need you to do more in life. And you need strength and you need energy. So it's kind of like
Passing down.
yeah, it's passing down.
You get the strength from up there, and then you channel it through them. Tell me what is really hard about making this, and what is really therapeutic about making this.
The hardest part is making solid arches, and catching them at the right time for movement. And
What do you mean by that?
Like the arches can only, well, depending upon what clay you use, they'll hold up different. They'll hold up different. But these pieces are fired at cone 6-7, which is upper mid fire, and cone 10 is high fire. So 6-7 for these. So they take on a lot of heat. 2280, 2290, 2280. 2,290 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay.
And they fire all together, so I can't lose like structure when they fire, because they literally glow and become like molten.
Wow.
Standing molten structures. Like you can't look through the peephole in a kiln because they're not good for you.
Bright.
Yes, too much on the iris and retina.
I'm so curious. Okay, so let's not lose the what is easy and what is hard, right? But so I'm learning from listening to you that it's a real science, and it's a real precise science, because you have to have the right clay, you have to shape it the right way, you have to fire it the right way so that it. So this is a miracle.
And the treatment, and the treatment that goes on it. Like you don't have control. You have some control in terms of putting it on, but how it fires, it's just going to.
What you call the treatment is firing, right?
Yeah, firing is like all that heat work that's done.
Yeah, okay.
Like something can be next to it and flash. Like if I put a glaze item next to it, it'll flash onto the piece.
Oh.
I can get flashing across pieces.
So even the way you place these pieces in the oven
kiln
is technical.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like what shelf level things are on, because we could have a range of like a cone shelf difference between 1 and 2 real easily, like cone 5, cone 6, cone 4, cone 6.
And they can mess with each other.
Well, the treatment can change.
Okay, and this is made in 3 pieces.
This one is, yes. Some are solid.
You fire them separately, or you have to fire them in each other?
They fire in each other. So it fires just like that.
Do you put anything in there, or it's just
when you do joints, it's best to protect joints with, if you want to use rubber, if you want to use paper, if you want whatever paper. Like what paper can go between the joints?
But the paper
it'll burn away.
Right.
Yeah, it burns away.
But that's okay. Okay.
Because it burns away at 2,000, it's gone. So there's a lot of things that people do to protect joints.
Right.
But for the most part, the fun aspect of it is just opening the kiln and feeling Christmas every time you open it.
Right, because you really don't know what's gonna.
Right, it's Christmassy.
Either you'll be super disappointed and angry because the stuff broke, or you're like, it worked.
Right, but not just broken. Sometimes a treatment will come, like the treatment will come out different. So, for example, I made this one mug, and I was like, oh my gosh, I should throw this away. But for one reason, I just didn't throw it away. I sat it on a shelf. And because of my mental expectation of it, of what it should have come out to be, and this is important for artists to understand.
Yes.
And what it really did come out to be, sometimes you've got to stand back and say, why do I have to be in such control? And then I looked at that piece again like 8-9 months later, and it's my favorite mug in the home. Like not just mine, but other people. That's my mug. Like, don't touch that when you drink out of it.
We are very critical of ourselves. I had this conversation a couple of days ago because I was doing a live painting, and I told, and the person was like, oh my God, I love this piece. And I was like, oh, it's not done. I don't like. But what they saw, I didn't see.
Right.
So sometimes we're our worst critics.
Yeah.
And destroyer. Because what I'm getting from your story is I could have just thrown that stuff
I could
away.
have just crashed it in the trash, said, no, I don't want this body of work. But
Be
instead, when
patient
I
with
went back
yourself
to be
and with the
patient with
art.
yourself, because when I saw it through non-conforming eyes, then
Yeah.
it became art to me, and
Yeah.
not just to me, but like I say, at home, I have to, covet my mug, my favorite mug, because they'll like, I had a guest in my home once
They'll
that
want it.
they just kept drinking out of my mug every time I go to like, I'm just like, ah. And I
You
said,
were
you know what?
vibing with that piece.
I said, you know what? I'm sorry, but that's my mug. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
But the thing about that is, how can you be attached to an item? Like sometimes you get a piece of art and you're just so attached you can't live without it. And I think when you get a piece that does that for a person, whether it be
Yes.
a family member, a friend, or a stranger from across the seas,
Yeah.
that it does something in their life that draws them to that place where they need that in their life for whatever it represents for them, that's when you really done your job.
And that's why I say I love some of the stuff you said through this interview where it's just do without restraint. Just do. Because you never know what impact what you do is going to have on anyone. If you block yourself and you say, and I say that to my students all the time, or through the paint parties that we're having, where people stressed out and like, my piece is not pretty enough. Just create, because really you don't know what impact it's going to have. Everybody has a different story. Everybody vibes differently with what you do. And some people will hate it, some people will love it. If you're worried about people loving your art, you're just gonna stifle yourself.
Yes, so true.
And your DNA and what you're here on this earth for.
Yes.
Let's just stifle it.
Yes.
And it's sad because
so
you have
true.
a voice, you were given a DNA, you were given a certain talent and all that stuff. Just keep creating.
Just keep creating. And so, with these pieces, as I continue on the journey with doing the transatlantic slave trade and doing definitely cornering that into the Middle Passage, and then taking like the Underground Railroad, the concept of what occurred during those times, and whatever else is to come. I'm still working in those two eras. Like that's a lifetime work.
Yeah, until you feel like
until it
did
leads me on to the next. Yes.
So do you have series in mind and things that you're trying to accomplish over this year, for example?
I only put myself out there so far, because then you kind of get out there and be like, where am I and why? Yeah. So I'm kind of giving that right now. Things that drop in my spirit to create are within those two realms, the Mid-Atlantic slave trade and then the Underground Railroad concepts. So, if I'll get to emancipation, if I get to Reconstruction, I don't know what that looks like.
Right.
At this point. So
it will come.
It'll come when it comes.
So do you read? Do you watch movies? Do you to inspire to hear the stories? How do you explore these eras? First
of all, I'm gonna be honest with you. I am terrible with history. Absolutely terrible with history. Some people are really good at it, but I mean, you give me chemical formulas and things like that. If I got to sit down and calculate that, that's fine. But when you start going into dates and time and history, I am the worst at that. And it's okay, because that's just who I am. Yeah. And so I tend to, because that is one of my constant reminders that this is important in terms of dates and times specifically, I have to literally either watch a film about it just to give me an overview, so my interest is piqued. Documentaries, yes. And then, I have great friends that'll pass me books. Yeah. And then I have family members that will tell you the real thing. Like, so my oldest sister, Phyllis, she's really strong on, because she's 10 years older than me, so she's born in 52, I'm born in 62. And so she really gives me a lot of information in terms of the ground they walked and why it was so important, the civil rights movements, she's there when Martin Luther King, she was old enough to really process that. Me, I was just kind of being protected by it.
Yeah.
Or many of the others, Angela Davis was really strong in her narrative, so
Yeah.
just really
Bits and
listening
pieces
to
of
family
history.
members and and the riots back in those times, they really do give me the soul of it. Not so much. Sometimes you can just get the date and time that it happened, and then, but you don't feel the soul of it. So I'm feeling the soul of it with them, and they protected me because I'm a '60s baby. So when the riots came, I'm born in the '60s, so they shielded me. And then some families may have taken those young children and they got direct exposure, so their path, which are the arches, and so their path is going to manifest a completely different narrative from my own. So I'm just processing mine.
Yeah.
And telling the truth about it from my perspective.
That's it. How long does it take you to create this?
I don't normally work on one alone. I work 2 to 3 pieces at a time.
Okay, that's interesting.
Because if I work one piece at a time, I don't think I'm ADHD, but I could be.
You get antsy.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, I need to move my mind a lot. So, like right now, I'm working on a panel, and then I'm getting ready to construct this ship. And so, like, they're totally different pieces. Okay. One is like flat, gotta hope they fire and come out right, otherwise I'm just be hitting it again. But that's a lot of work. That's a lot of clay to move. So at my age group, and I always told on my age group because I just am a little proud of that. I'm 64, still pushing this much clay. And I know a lot of people are doing that in their elder years, but we move a lot of clay. And it's like, you have to work out. Like, I'm low on working out because grad school is wearing me out, and I'm like, I got to get to the gym or else I can't move this clay. So you got to stay fit. So you got to take care of yourself. Not just stay fit, you got to eat, you got to take care of yourself.
And rest.
Soak, and you have to rest.
Do you find a time to rest?
Yeah, yesterday was my rest day.
Okay, so you have full days of...
Because I got a big run getting ready to come up, because we're getting ready to cast in bronze. So wow. I cast strange fruit that we saw.
I saw, yeah.
Yep. I cast strange fruit, a small version of it in bronze. So I'm excited to see.
Is that the next direction?
No, because I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not turning anyone away from bronze. Bronze is amazing, but you got to chase metal. And when we say chase metal, that means we're dealing with an angle grinder and polishing and moving that with leather gloves on, mask, full helmet, metal shards coming in your chest.
Wow.
And
it's dangerous.
It's like, okay, I can't go to sleep on this job.
Right.
So it's, some people we've got some great artists, and I don't remember their names, I apologize, but I do suggest people should like Google African American metal artists, and glass artists, because I've cast in pieces in glass, and so the university does that for you. You get to play with the other mediums.
The program, you get to try all.
Yeah, any university, usually you're gonna, in the MFA, you can play around with the metals, the glass, the cardboard, whatever materials out there, you can play. I'm trying not to be a purist, which is I only deal in clay, but I just love this medium.
I mean, see her
oh
face
my gosh, it's just like, I love clay. It's just.
So when I was asking you how long does it take? Oh, because you're working on several pieces and stuff like that. But does it take a week? Does it take a day? Does it take a month?
But more like a month.
A month.
Yeah, you're looking at a month, and then that's without any firing errors.
Oh, so is there several little firings across?
Oh yeah, there's
so it's not just
each piece
one
gets
firing.
No, it gets as many firings as I want to get the treatment like I want it. Okay. So sometimes just one firing does it, and then sometimes you might fire at one point and then add a glaze and then fire again. So you can bisque fire and glaze fire, or you can fire in one firing. It's a lot of firing concepts
But
that
once
can
you
go with
fire,
it.
that's it. You can't modify the piece anymore. Right?
Once you create this, then it will be on the earth for millions of years.
Wow.
Unless you
It's
put it
called
through a
legacy.
grinder. Unless you put
Yeah.
it through a grinder and recommit it back to the earth.
Yeah.
But beyond that, yes, you're going to be, it will be here.
Have you always done art? Always, or is something that came later after a career, or?
Yeah, I started my career thinking I was going to become a doctor, and then ended up becoming a chemist. And so I taught chemistry for I think about 24 years total.
Oh wow.
And then I did a little bit of curriculum writing towards the end of my career, and then left, and then decided to pursue what I really loved, which was clay. And so it's been a journey, because the first part of my life that was done to survive, and this part of my life I'm just determined to just get that child born.
Yes. Yes. Determined to be yourself.
Yeah,
though,
be
to
myself.
Become yourself, like you said.
Yes.
And so, did you retire and do that, or did you have to do the switch that a lot of artists are scared of, which is leave corporate America to be full-time artists? How did it work for you?
It was a little bit of both.
Okay.
I could have worked to 65, but I retired at 57. And so to come out at 57, not really fully vested and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
I was just like terrified,
That's
you know.
scary.
But, I'm blessed to have an amazing ex-husband that supports things with me by doing what he's supposed to do and not having a lot of trouble with that. I'm thankful for that because it doesn't have to be. And that allows me. So God has done it all. He's put everybody in place for this moment in time in my life. And so I just give gracious thanks.
Yeah.
Because everybody's journey is going to be different how it manifests for them.
Yeah.
Some will come through and fight blood and nails and tears, to get there. And then some people would just come on a silver platter, and and then some it comes right in between. So the variation is
And that's what we're here
individual.
for.
Yeah.
To show people what paths have been.
Yes.
The youth is wondering, how do I get there? What kind of degree am I getting?
Yes.
And very nervous. I think this one is an important for me.
I'm glad.
Which is, we have to listen to our parents, who are the ones who pay for school and all that stuff. And then we have a calling. And I meet a lot of this youth that says, all I want to be is an artist. But Dad said, and that's what happened to me. I went into being a psychologist and teaching psychology at the university and all that stuff. And then the pandemic hit, and that was like a like a switch that allowed me to focus on this channel, focus on building the studio. And now I'm trying to grow up and be like Ida,
I'm trying to grow
literally
up like you.
be a solo artist full time, right? And this is just like nerve-wracking because quitting academia has been difficult. I must say I'm about 90% out of academia, maybe 80% out of academia. I'm still trying to really get out so I could be full-time artist.
Yeah.
But you need a plan for that. And so it's a scare for a lot of parents who are like, you're never going to be able to live off of it. When you think about it, we wouldn't have tables, we wouldn't have clothes, we wouldn't have cars, we wouldn't have phones, we wouldn't have movies. We wouldn't have anything without artists. Art is everywhere. So
we wouldn't have culture without artists. If you think about it, when we have wars, one of the key targets that they hit is the museums to erase
so
people.
True.
And it's because the art, when you create your art, you have to realize that you may not be, like I'm sorry, I'm not a super activist in that way, but I am an activist in telling our story through art. And so for me, the importance of art that's truly understated in our culture is it really tells the truth. And it's not always the big art that made it, in the top, galleries or that all over the world. And many times it is
Look at
because
the Aborigines that you talked about.
absolutely.
And everything that they've been carrying.
The quiet, yes, and that stuff is on National Geographic and when it's everywhere. But at the same time, we are leaving a piece of the truth that we experienced, and so our voice is being heard. And I think that's an important part of our choice to make a statement.
Think about our history without archaeology. The images that we found in the dirt on clay pots, for example, the stories.
Or the stories. Or the caves.
We wouldn't know where we're coming from without artists.
Yeah, my son at Tyus, LA, my son Julian Tyus, he's an artist too, and but his panels, he does like these huge murals, and I can't wait till he gets discovered. But he tells our narrative. He tells our narrative through a cave dwelling. It's exciting.
Now we gotta go see that.
Yeah, we gotta see him.
We're gonna share all the information
he's in Chicago,
below
but
and make sure you get to see him.
Yeah, but I just get tickled when I see all the different types of narratives that people can make, and pull the exposure and the truth out. So I think with anyone creating art, like, go for it. Like this one man, I don't know his name. People have to Google him, but he's taking these wrappers and he started off making these little figures, and now he's at LACMA, I think. And and so he's like, his art has made it, but he's just told his story.
Don't judge an artist. Don't judge what they do.
Don't judge what they do.
You never know where it goes.
You don't know where. And then wrappers from with foil, the gum wrappers.
Gum wrappers.
And so he miniaturizes these figures, and it's just like, wow. I've seen so many mediums being used.
I appreciate that about what we have shared today, Ida, in the sense of you really made us think about art is in movement and it's flexible. You don't know where you're going. You just go, right? It unfolds with you. It grows with you.
That's right.
It takes different shapes with your different experiences. Don't stifle it because you don't know where it's going.
That's right.
And if you give it space and find a way to give your child the space, for example, as you see that they're creating,
right?
You don't know where it goes. So let's talk about your kid then. Because you're an artsy mama, and then you pass the bug on. So how was that experience?
For parents, I think this is real good for parents, because my oldest is an attorney and my youngest is a wonderful writer. She actually did her MFA in writing, and so but she's real techno in a way, and tech with working with unfolding curriculum and concepts for companies. But my point is he was the one that was like the artsy guy. And so we've had our struggles because the other two were extremely academic, and he was just like, whatever, And then my ex-husband, he was vice president of General Motors, so he was just kind of like, wow. And then I was a chemistry teacher, so I'm like, wow. So he was just stuck as this artist, and I hope he doesn't mind me telling about his story, but he was this amazing artist. And so everything he did growing up, I still have his coil pot, when he was in grade school, and I still have his coaster next to my bed with all the little imagery he put on it. So I still keep all those things. He was like, I'll just go and become a doctor or whatever, but I just was like, wait a minute. I said, they are I told him, they are, your brother and your sister are skilled to do what they do. I said, but you are gifted. to do what you do. And so I said, so your struggle's going to be hard and you're going to have to really own it to go. So even though he teaches and does his art, I still we still sit back and we chill and we talk about art and we talk about building. So he's building a body of work, just getting ready to launch and launch and launch.
So it hasn't been an easy path for him because he was.
Because you gotta live, you gotta eat.
See, that's the problem. What kills me. It's just when we say if you're an artist, you're not gonna be able to live. Start paying artists what they deserve
and
what they deserve.
Yes.
And it comes from understanding that art is essential to the world.
To the world.
And because we don't think it's essential,
right.
we're like your little business, your little hobby, then we're not paying artists fair enough. And so they're struggling. Well, and then we turn around and say, but artists struggle.
That's
but guess
right.
what?
Right.
If you were paying us normally,
we would
not be struggling.
But let me give you a tangible connection on how important art is. Yeah. So when weaponry spots first. So weapons, and then when war breaks out, then they'll bomb. We deal with casualties in schools and things like that. That's horrible. That's crimes against war. And then they'll also hit museums. And as we talked about, the artifacts, the truth throughout years, libraries, they hit those areas for a reason. And so what we do is highly underrated. It's highly underrated.
Makes me angry.
Because they come after what we've left behind always.
Because
it's the truth. Yeah, we're speaking
into what is going on, into what people are thinking, to our culture.
Yes.
The stuff that they've that they sent on the moon has art. Why? Because it's essential.
That's right. It's essential. And so, so in that regard, my son, he's I'm real inspired by his work and how he will press hard to continue to unfold. Now, even though he has to work and do everything with it, that comes along with being responsible. It does. You just have to do it. You have to do what you have to do.
I know.
Remember, I mentioned everybody has a different path. Some people have it hard and dirty, and some have it easy.
I just wish that when we see a little kiddo start having a real touch, and you're like, ooh, that kid has an art signature. There's something about that kid. I just wish that we could rely on society to take care of that kid like it takes care of the kid that wants to be a doctor,
scientist, or whatever,
or whatnot. And so that kid could be 100% in their skill, in their talent, in their gift, and do what they need to do for society to be great.
That's it.
And
be able to live with it.
Not having to have two careers.
Yes, not having two careers.
Why do we have to have two careers?
Yeah, but but when you think about it, one thing I approach the two careers is this. One of the careers, if you go that route, one of the careers is really powerful on you teach art and then you do art. And sometimes that gap works together with itself. Like, for example, like I teach at the Rancho Cucamonga Senior Center. So I teach senior ceramics. But I love teaching senior ceramics because they are in a place where seniors are feeling like, I'm getting older, I don't have anything I can do. Well, this is the time to revisit that. I wish I could have. I wish I would have.
Give them life again.
And they get life again. And not only regular life, they lift 25 pounds of clay every time they go and pick up their clay and work with it. It's wonderful for their health. And then they have to mold and shape clay so their hands are getting worked. And and they the creative mind now
Yes.
works in another area, so we're building synapses that cross
Yes.
the nerve
Yes,
endings.
thank you for bringing that up.
And,
As
we're
a
strengthening
psychologist,
our
I think about that.
mindset. Yeah.
That eye-hand coordination
And all of
stuff.
that.
It helps
Yes.
with balance. It helps with a
And
lot of stuff.
creativity.
So-
Like oh, you know, one lady said, I'm just not creative. He's gotta go.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry, I can't remember when he's fighting with burns back then. He's fighting with burns, with sun, with all kinds of stuff. Poor thing.
Thank you so much for your help.
Bugs.
Well, I'm
He's gonna be okay.
I'm getting the beautiful sap that falls from the trees.
I did feel that
but
too.
I feel it, but I love it. But I'm like, okay, thank you. Shower me with your love. Like,
it looks fun,
like,
you guys, but there's a lot going on
you
around these
feel
cameras.
But it's good. It's good because it
Yeah.
regrounds you to who you should be.
Yeah.
But yeah, so so in all that remind me where I was, because I am in my 60s.
We were
Oh
talking
yeah, the mental
about
stability.
The seniors
Yeah.
and the mental,
Yeah. So the mental stability of all of the dynamics that goes on in that space, it just boils my heart over. It's not for super gain or anything. It's a giving. Not, I'm not going to say giving back, because I'm not giving back anything. I'm just giving today.
You're giving, and it's funny that we also call out on artists to be in all of these spaces, because intrinsically, without acknowledging it, we know that art restores. Yeah. That's why we're calling people like you into senior homes, because it helps.
Yes, it helps.
It heals.
It heals. It helps.
Calms down.
Yes, it does. And they get
joy.
to give. Like, one lady came to me for a private class, and a friend of mine, she, Gianni, hi Gianni, but Gianni, she sent a woman to me to. She was hospice, and she needed to just get this piece out for her daughters. And so she was really skilled at kind of sitting down and working with the figure that she wanted to make, which was an elephant, for her and her daughter. But she was I didn't have to do as much work as I thought I would have to with her. She was able to just kind of sit down and be centered. But for me, not just to take it selfishly, she came to me to process this piece out for her kids. And then I fired it, and then I got it to Gianni, and then the woman got her piece. But I walked away with seeing a person empty the biggest fears of their life. I'm losing my life to cancer. I got to leave this earth. I've got to leave my children. And what can I say to them after I'm gone? And so this piece, you know, and for me to watch it, just even as the provider of the services, just made me, like, humbled me, like, wow, you know, this was an important moment for her, not just for her, but for me too. That what I do is just not something that is happenstake, that there's a multi-layer unfolding of it, and I've got to be open to how that unfolds. So when we talk about our kids got to teach and do this, there's a history, and as an educator, you know, as an educator in another discipline, I know too, that, you know, even the unfolding that we might have to teach while we do our art is unfolding something powerful in someone else's life. That's related to our work. So that's why I encourage my son, like, go ahead and teach. I mean, it's not the end of the world. Like, the things that you're giving to these children, because he's a grown man teaching second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, you know.
But you're pouring into them, and as an artist, he has a different way of seeing education.
Yes.
That I think a creative way of seeing education, a creative way of building his classroom.
Yes.
And so he's learning from it. The kids are learning from it.
But it's exhausting to do that and then turn around and create your work.
Because we got two careers.
We got two careers. So we're back to that again.
We're back to that.
Yeah. So is there an answer for it?
No, there's no
I say
answers for
take
it.
your wins when you have to, and take your losses when you have to.
But what I would say is
Hmm.
keep creating, like you're
Yes,
saying,
keep
keep pushing.
creating.
If this is in your DNA, if this is itching you,
Yes.
find a way to give it space.
Mm.
Because it's
Mm.
itching you for a reason. The
Mm.
universe is calling you out
Mm.
to be you
Mm-hmm.
for a reason. Community around you is recognizing there's something creative about that person. Why? Just use it and give it more space. Once
Give it
you
more
do,
space.
there will be opportunities that will get poured into you for you to do more
And
of
if
it.
your path leads you into that iconic, all I do is only my art, and I make a really great living off that, and if that's the ultimate moment that does it for a person, and that happens, yay. But if it doesn't, yay for all the way your path went.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, because
Don't feel bad about this other path.
because you could have become just the ultimate. I only do one thing. I'm an artist and have a miserable life.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So that doesn't determine whether you're at peace. At peace is taking everything that you love and
And be
within,
grateful for it.
yeah,
I like
that
that.
part.
That's a beautiful way
Yeah.
to finish this conversation that I want to go on forever.
I know.
Well, I don't want to gloss over just what you said about that older lady that you worked with. I think it was beautiful that you were able to provide a space for her to leave a last message.
Yes.
And so I really want us to remember that
Yes.
art heals. Tell me a few last words about what you want to say to our community, and then I would love for you to share where they can find you, website, social media, all that stuff.
Okay. Okay. Well, the last thing I'll say is, you know, the art for me, and I'm thankful for being able to be in the place where the art for me is really a statement of historical expression that I have, how I've processed. And I'm still in that place where I'm looking for ways to unveil the deep rooted expressions that want to come out. But in addition to the art and children with schooling, I get it. You have to look at your life as a balanced whole piece. You can't just say, well, I'm just going to do only one thing, or yes, you can say that, but just be ready to live with your decision. That's all I can say about that part, because some people will take the 100% artist route and say, I will live with my decision, and they go through and just fight hard. I can't determine that for any person in this world. So you just gotta, what do I want to do? And ask yourself that from not a place of scarcity and fear.
That's right.
Because this when we make our mistake. But out of a place of tangible, rooted, directional. This is what I'm going to try to do. And I think that's fair enough for everyone to be able to just at least try to reach that, right? But beyond that, I'd say in terms of my future work, I'm just excited to see where I'll explore these pieces. And I'm just excited as the next piece that comes out of the kiln. I'm just like, oh, or something can come out and I'm like, oh, we're going that way, okay.
I want to take the camera with it. Can we come one day and just wait with you by the door?
And see what happens.
Yeah. I would love that. Well, thank you.
Right. You're welcome.
Thank you, Ida. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much.
A lot of wisdom. Also showing that, hey, I can be 64 and still figuring my art out. It's never too late to become yourself.
Yes, just stay healthy. Just stay healthy.
And stay healthy.
Work out.
All right, so tell us where we can find you.
Okay, so I'm at etchedynclay.com. That work's going to be primarily functional wear. I have not updated my website. I will get better at it, but it's coming. I wear a lot of hats over here, and I'm creating right now and in grad school. So that piece, if someone wants to volunteer to do my website, just let me know. Okay. The second thing, and I hate that it's a volunteer, but it is. But the second thing is you can let me back up. At etched_in_clay. is my Instagram. And I just had my work photographed, so I'm going to try to pull my work out and get it up there. Yay! Thank you, Santos, for doing that for me. He's an MFA grad student, and he's worked on my work. And this, did I miss one? Oh,
Well, you give
Facebook,
us
huh? I
yeah.
don't. Oh, I just look up under Facebook. I think I'm under etched in clay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, folks, please go check the art, go check the work, etched in clay, etched, really like
Cut into it.
cut
Like
into
go
it.
into it. Work it.
The
Yeah.
work is amazing. We're talking about bridges, we're talking about journey, and it's inspired by Aboriginal art. I'm so happy that
Yes.
we got to talk about that because I love culture. I love that we're listening to other cultures. We're gonna have another new journey coming up soon, 2027, where we're gonna explore new cultures. So stay
Absolutely.
tuned. Thank you so much for
Thank
spending
you.
time.
Oh,
I love you.
absolutely.
I'm
God
so
bless
happy that
you.
we got to do that.
Yes.
And then you'll see Ida Tyus around. We always have Black Heart events and all
Yes.
kinds of exhibits and stuff going on.
Yes.
So find her and go see the rest. It's a
Yes.
beautiful world of clay and journey.
Thank you.
Another great hour with Unfiltered and Inspired. Thank you so much for spending time with us.
You're welcome.
And we'll see you on the next episode.
Yes. Thank you.